And once again, thank you very much for joining us for today's session. My name is Mike. I'm with Clear Admit. Clear Admit is a fantastic resource website and applicant community for folks applying to top MBA programs. Go look at clearadmit.com as much as you want. Today is not about us. We're just helping to host this session with one of those top business schools, Carnegie, Mellon, Tepper. And we have a panel of awesome folks from different areas of the campus, everything from admissions over to the Career Center, full-time MBA, part-time MBA. So we're hoping to answer as many questions about the Tepper program, the MBA programs, maybe just questions about Pittsburgh, whatever you want to learn about today. And we'll get around to our full panel and take care of all those questions. Once again, the session is being recorded, so you'll be able to catch up on everything later on. To introduce our panel, we'll start off with Douglas Alford. How are you doing? And can you tell us who you are, what you do at Tepper, maybe a fun fact if you have one, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you, Mike. I'm so excited to be here. I'm really excited to get an opportunity to talk to so many prospective students from all over the world as well. As you mentioned, my name is Douglas Alford. I'm one of the directors of Master's Admissions here at the Tepper School of Business. When it comes to what I do, I'm very fortunate enough to have the opportunity to interact with prospective students at different positions within their search process. That could be on the road while we're recruiting an event, anywhere across the country or across the world, quite frankly, as well as having the opportunity to interview as well as sit on the admissions committee. So I'm lucky enough to be able to connect with students at so many various stages. When it comes to fun facts, I guess I don't mind quite sharing this, but I do find myself to be a person that is quite funny. I've at least been proven enough to make Jerry Seinfeld laugh in person. So I will say that is one nice little fun fact about myself.
Oh, well.
That's a great fun fact. I've seen Jerry Seinfeld on a stage one time. I've never gotten to speak. That's a very cool fact. Okay, look at that. So now, man, no pressure, Kate, but you have to somehow top
really?
the fun fact. So Kate, tell us same thing, who you are, what you do at Tepper, and I guess if you can top that.
No, I cannot top that. I'll just start off with that. I'm not nearly as famous. I'm Kate Riley. I'm a director in the Master's Career Center here at Tepper, working with MBAs in the full-time and the part-time programs. I've been here going on 11 years now. I was in industry prior to that, mostly in the technology and telecom manufacturing sectors. I work mainly with students that are interested in product management operations in the healthcare sector. And my colleagues who also come from industry focus on, we have focus areas in financial services, in technology and consulting, and in the brand area for marketing and product management. So open to answer any of your questions, and I'm thrilled to be able to be here today.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, Kate. And then we'll kick it over to Rosa Maria. Same questions.
Thanks, Mike. My name is Rosa Maria Manrique. I am originally from Lima, Peru. I moved to Pittsburgh 2 years ago to start my full-time MBA. And before joining Tepper, I worked for asset management, capital markets for more than 5 years since I was an undergrad intern. And at Tepper, I did my internship at Red Hat in a business value role. And now I'm going to Citibank for a full-time role in a leadership development program. So I'm very excited about those things. And I don't know if I have such a cool fun fact. I have a selfie with J Balvin. He's a very big reggaeton singer. I saw him in Times Square while I was visiting New York. And yeah, it was really cool because it's one of my favorite artists. So
very cool. Look at that. I know J Balvin, so that's awesome. He's the guy with the different hair, right? All the hairstyles all the time.
I feel like people confuse Bad Bunny and J Balvin. I'm not sure which one you're referring, because he also has like different hairstyles. He was in the Super Bowl, right? With J Lo.
Yes. Yeah. He colors his hair, right? It's shaved hair, but it's colored different. Yeah. No, I'm not good. And Bad Bunny, yes, the longer hair, more, yes. So there you go. Okay. Man, we're all got celebrity selfies and meetups and all this. All right. Michelle, how about for you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Diagith, and I am a part-time 2024 MBA student. Prior to coming to Tepper, my experience is actually in a leadership development program and then within the HR and people spaces, particularly in technology and data. And today, by day, I work at Salesforce in workforce planning analytics, and by night, of course, I am a student. I am originally from New York, but also moved to Pittsburgh about 2 years ago, and I can make my fun fact Pittsburgh themed, so I'm a huge fan of Heinz ketchup. So the first thing that I saw when I came to Pittsburgh was the Heinz Museum and the big ketchup bottle, and I knew I found a very good new home for myself.
Very nice. Yes. And unfortunate that the Steelers stadium, right? It was Heinz Field for so long. And that was like a big like Pittsburgh moment to see that name change. I feel like that was like a piece of home that got changed forever, right? Yeah. So but good time still. The Steelers are still a great team and a great franchise. So we're not making that a bad situation, just a different situation. So so with that, let's kick off today's session with something about just Tepper in general with the MBA programs. And Douglas, we can have you kind of lead us off with the first answer here. What would you say makes Tepper's curriculum unique?
Yeah, no, thank you. Happy to kick us off. And, I believe first off, that's a great question. So I'm really happy to answer it. For me, I believe many of our students came to Tepper specifically because of the curriculum. I think they truly understood that in order to solve some of our more complex problems, you really just have to be able to predict. You need to be able to forecast, and you also need to be able to model different answers to the problems. So for us, our curriculum is one that really focuses on the science of management and on the art of leadership. So this really depends on having the ability to make analytically based decision making, and also really focuses on the importance of human intelligence as well as leadership development. So mastering the science of management and the art of leadership will essentially set our students apart from other MBA graduates. At its core, I would say it means that you're going to be taking a deeper dive into creating more analytical skills, as well as also giving you the ability to keep up in a more data-informed business climate. And it also continue to pair you with the individual leadership training that you need to attain your long-term goals.
That's great. And Rose and Michelle, I don't know if Rose and Maria, either one of you want to comment on that. I mean, having been students in the program, what's your experience with that curriculum? What has it done for you? And maybe from different perspectives, right? Because Michelle, you're bringing this stuff back to work every day. Who's someone who's taking courses at night and then bring it back. And Rose Maria, going into your next career here, having that transition and stuff. So I don't know who wants to start us off with that, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, I can go ahead and comment on that. I think that was one of the things that certainly won me over in terms of coming to Tepper, that quantitative focus and the management science approach. Having been in the workforce for a couple of years before coming to Tepper, I really saw the importance of data and insights and how those influence strategic decision making. So coming here, I knew that this was the school that was really best positioned to teach me how to be a data-driven leader and use analytics in helping people and information organizations work better together. So I found huge value in that, and it inspired my subsequent roles as I kind of changed companies throughout the program, and I have gone into analytics roles as a result.
Awesome.
Yeah, similar as Michelle and Douglas were talking, I came to Tepper because I wanted to learn more about analytics, data, even technology. I used to work in a traditional industry such as financial services, and I realized while I was growing in my role that you needed to start understanding how data works, how technology can improve your business as well. And that was knowledge I didn't have. I come from an economics undergrad. I did my minor in finance. So I had this business profile and perspective, but I didn't know much about this other new side of business that is gaining so much relevance now. That's why I chose Tepper, because it has this strong emphasis in its curriculum.
Very good stuff. Now, one other aspect that I guess the market kind of says or assumes about Tepper, right, is that it's very challenging to attend classes there. So, and another benefit of Tepper too is the STEM aspect of the MBA, especially for international students, which we have a lot of in the room today. So, Douglas, maybe we'll start with you again on this one, but how do you know if you're ready to go to a school like Tepper to take on that curriculum, and if a STEM program like yours is something that someone's ready for?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that is a very common question that we actually receive. And again, it's due to the academic rigor of the program and the STEM MBA designation that, some students are just going to have a preconceived idea of what type of students will traditionally excel in our program. And, while many of our students are going to come to Tepper with a STEM background, it's important to know that also many do not. And yet they're still able to complete the program and do so quite successfully. So, the next question is why? And for us, it's a fairly simple answer. It's because there are multiple metrics for us to really determine someone's academic readiness. So there's obviously opportunity to look at their academic background. We're taking a look at the undergraduate, previous graduate study, so their academic performance, but we're also considering standardized test scores. We even look at, previous work experience, opportunity for students to show that they have the quantitative skills needed through their previous work in a specific job function. But again, the key is just to know that there are several different ways in which you can, highlight your abilities to an application, and not everything is really contingent on having a specific major or academic background or a high standardized test score. Again, we offer test waivers for a reason. It's because we understand that there's, more than one way to show a high ability or academic aptitude. So, for me, what I recommend for students is just to review their profile. If you have questions, just reach out to our admissions team, talk to our students, sit in on a class, join us for a campus visit if you're really unsure, and we're happy to really help you work through this process.
Yeah, it's interesting how there's that kind of perceived notion of what a Tepper student should look like on the way in, right? But I guess on the way out, there's maybe some similar perceptions that are out there, this time from the corporate side of things, right? So Kate, this may be a good question for you. What is that perception or maybe stereotypes of Tepper graduates? And is there an expectation from recruiters of what a Tepper graduate should look like?
Yeah, it's interesting because we have a lot of very strong recruiting relationships, many of them driven by our strong alums that have moved up within these companies and can influence the recruiting cycle. They expect that students, the Tepper students, will be very smart, technically capable, humble. We hear that a lot, humble, and they have grit. So, they expect that the students will be there and, very analytically driven. So very much in line with what you are all talking about in the program drives. As you get through the program, you will understand how to use data to influence others, influence decisions, how to understand the data, vast amounts of data, and then present it in such a way at an executive level. So those at a very high level, very, very much team players as well, too, because you will be working through the Accelerate Leadership program where you'll learn to work with teams and leadership skills. And, for those of you who haven't had leadership experiences before. So those at a high level, that's pretty much what they're looking for, kind of the persona of a Tepper student.
From my knowledge now, Clear Admit, we're based on the other side of the state in Philadelphia, so slightly different location. But a lot of those terms you just used with grit, especially, it sounds like you're embodying the city that you're in as well, right? That's a very Pittsburghy thing to be, is that gritty.
Yeah, it is. And too, in kind of tumultuous times too, that we're living through for the past few years, and probably will be going forward too, people that just work together well, listen to others, and get the job done. They're very reliable, they show up, they deliver, and they lead very well. So that's been my experience too with the students that I have worked with over the past more than decade.
So Rosamaria, within your full-time cohort, right, how would you describe that culture, that environment? Like, what are you noticing as a student in the program?
Yeah, it's similar to what Kate mentioned. This is one of the reasons I also applied to Tepper, because I knew it was a collaborative environment, and I know I can thrive in that type of environment. So when I like when I arrived to Tepper and I start knowing my classmates, I realized, yes, that's actually the environment. Everyone is very collaborative. They are gonna go out of their way to help you. And some example I love to share is I was in a process for my internship on a recruiting process. It was me and another guy from Tepper. And this person, we were not that close friends. He had the interview before and he helped me. Like he explained to me, okay, these are the concepts. You're gonna do great, like best of luck for you. And I don't know, like I believe that type of environment when everyone wants you to see shining, it's something that I really enjoy about Tepper. I've never seen like any type of like people being extremely competitive and they believe in that, I don't know, like having this idea that they need to win. I haven't seen that at Tepper. I believe most of my classmates believe we all want to win. We all want to make Tepper better. This is the way we can be a better class. It's something I really enjoy about my classmates.
That's great to hear, because I think there's like that misconception about not necessarily Tepper, but MBA programs in general, right? That it's like a competitive environment and people are always trying to better the next person. So it's nice to hear that maybe that misconception is wrong completely, but especially at Tepper, it sounds like that's not the case, which is great. So Michelle, do you have a similar experience, or maybe you could also share, why did you choose Tepper? You know, what made this the right fit for you? And if it relates to anything we've already mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I completely agree in terms of one of the other reasons why I chose Tepper, in addition to the curriculum, was actually that collaborative environment. I found it extremely valuable just learning from classmates across different disciplines and skills. And everyone has been extremely supportive. So it's such a great experience to feel part of a community, both through challenging times or challenging classes and through celebrations as well, things that are happening in our lives, at school, at work. And I found that students, professors, and TAs have always been willing to help across the board. And I find myself very frequently meeting with any of those individuals, whether it be professors or students, just to talk about careers, companies. Everyone is always really willing to help. So I certainly appreciate that. So that was definitely the other factor as to why I chose Tepper.
This sounds great. And this may be like a interesting one too, but you know, as like that part-time student, are you feeling that you're as involved, right? Like you're feeling that there's that misconception out in the world that part-time is so different from full-time. And we have a question in the chat right now. Is there a difference in the degree between the full-time and the part-time? So I don't know if you want to kind of take that one on. I mean, there could be a very simple yes or no answer to that, but if you have any other thoughts to your experience as, you know, someone who's not a full-time MBA student.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there can certainly be concern around this concept of being able to build a community when you're a part-time program. But I would say that I personally, at least my personal experience has been that I've had no trouble really being able to connect with classmates. I'm also remote at work as well. So it's very conducive to kind of how I'm able to balance relationships and networking and time. But I find that because of the inclusivity and the amount of opportunities that are virtual at Tepper, it's no problem to feel like you're involved, take classes virtually, and to really connect with others. There is some benefit. I know I live in Pittsburgh, so I do get to come to campus sometimes, but there's also a lot of benefit in access weekends, being in person and things of that nature to really allow for that in-person connection as well.
Yeah, that's great. And it's great to hear. It's good that that's the environment that is there. And so, you know, it sounds like it's a great place to be, right? So people, I'm sure we have folks in the room that are interested enough to attend a session like this. So Douglas, who are you looking for? Like, why was Rosemaria? Why was Michelle? Why are they good students to have in your program? Not specific to them, but why are these students getting into Tepper? Who are you looking for? You know, give us kind of like what's that ins and outs of a good applicant for your school.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, again, like I said, I think that's a very common question. We understand why students are trying to figure out how, you know, who's the perfect or what's the traditional Tepper student look like. And first off, there's no such thing as a perfect student. There's no such thing as a quote unquote traditional student at Tepper. Now, do many of our students have similar qualities? The obvious answer there is going to be yes. So, you know, of course, I would describe them as intelligent, driven, both personally and professionally. You know, I would absolutely describe them as that, but they're also very, in their own way, very unique. our student population is really diverse. And when I say that, I mean diverse in a way that it's, more visible characteristics like, gender, race, nationality, but also in ways that are less visible, such as different academic backgrounds, professional interests and goals, political and religious beliefs. For us, the life experience that our students bring on the program are a great benefit and a great value. Again, our students are coming from all over the world, so there's no specific archetype that we actually look for. We're essentially just looking for students that are going to be valuable members to our student community, and students that are really excited about coming into the classroom and really enhancing that experience for everyone.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it's so many different ways to build that cohort to get, all different perspectives in the classroom. It's awesome that you're looking for everything, which is great. Couple of good questions that came in, and we may be able to tackle them both at the same time. So in this Q&A box, one question that came in: can you please describe what a regular day would look like for you as an MBA student? And maybe Rosemaria and Michelle, we can have you each answer that, because it's going to be probably slightly different, right? Like what a typical full-time day looks like, typical part-time day might look like. So Rosemaria, we'll start with you on that. And sorry, the second piece is there a favorite course that you have as well that you've taken in the program? So we'll tackle them both at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. So for example, it will depend always in the mini that you are in. Some minis you are prioritizing recruiting. Some other minis you are maybe doing a little bit more of club work. I'm in the marketing. I was in the marketing and Latin American business club. So there are minis that definitely I had way more work on those clubs than in other minis. But right now that I'm in my last mini, and by the way, those who are not familiar with the mini semester, at Tepper we have mini semesters instead of one semester. So that allows you to take more classes and maybe explore other options that like other interests that you have. So for example, today I went to Tepper at 8 a.m. because I have my acting for business class. Then I came back home, I went to the gym. Now I'm having this meeting, and then I'm gonna have a later class, that digital transformation class, which is outside Tepper. Is very exciting. Yeah, we have classes from Monday to Thursdays. So it will depend how many classes you're taking, if you're recruiting or not, that you can change your schedule. I was very flexible with my schedule this mini, and I prioritized the classes I wanted to take. I didn't care that much about the schedule because I was not recruiting and I had the free time to be able to go to Tepper whenever I wanted to go. And yeah, Friday we have off. So usually on Fridays I have some meetings. I work on my capstone project, which is the project you need to do to graduate. So I usually have a bunch of capstone meetings on Friday. Yeah, then the weekend is a regular weekend. We usually have some assignments due on Monday. So I try to read my cases during the weekend, so I can have a more relaxing weekday. But yeah, it usually depends on like what you're doing, but I still have time to enjoy my hobbies, like considering that it's in the full-time program we're not working daily, so I have the time to do that. And you want me to reply my favorite classes right now too?
Sure, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I have taken a lot of classes I really like. I love gaining advantage through sales. It's a class I took last mini. I believe it gave me a lot of confidence in public speaking. And the professor teaches you not only how to sell a product, but also how you need to constantly be selling yourself. I love acting for business. For those who don't know, the CMU has one of the best drama schools. We have a professor from the CMU drama school who goes to the business school to teach this class, acting for business. And I love it. I think it's top 3 favorite classes I've ever taken. I don't know, like we act, but also it's very important to understand that sometimes when you're presenting and you're nervous, you just need to believe this is an act. Like I need to put a brave face and feel confident about myself. And I believe we're working on that in that class. I love marketing research. If we Jeff Gallagher, if you go to Tepper, I would highly recommend it. It's very analytical, but I believe that was one of the first analytical classes I took, and I was really scared because I've never worked with data before. And this class made me more comfortable working with big data sets. So I believe those three have been my favorite classes so far.
I'll tell you what, I want to take that acting for business class. That sounds like a fun one. I like that. I mean,
Yeah, it's great.
Your acting is great right now, by the way, so it's working. I mean, you're speaking very well. It sounds, you know, you're telling your story. It's awesome. So thank you for that in-depth answer and highlighting a couple of classes. That's awesome. That see how many that you definitely like there. Michelle, let's do kind of a similar thing, right? So your day schedule might not be the same, but maybe like similar to what Rosemary ended up doing. What does like a week look like, I guess, in the program, right? How many classes are you taking at a single time? Is there time to work and do other stuff in your work life, personal, going to the gym, balance kind of a thing?
Oh, absolutely. So being in a part-time program, most of us do typically work during the day. So I work, a classic kind of 9 to 5 in my current role. And then typically evenings are reserved for class and schoolwork. So within the part-time program, it's typical to take about 2 classes every mini. So that's 2 times a week that we're meeting in class sections with professors. And what I think is really great about the part-time program is they take a little bit of a flipped classroom approach for most classes. So a lot of our learning is self-paced on our own time with resources provided online. And then what's really valuable is that in class is an opportunity to come together to discuss and to collaborate with students and the professor. So there's a little bit of a different learning model, but I find it very valuable in that it helps me plan my time better throughout the week. And then other days within the week can be reserved for whatever a student is interested in, whether that be participation in clubs, maybe group meetings for group projects. Like I mentioned, that homework that does need to get done, and weekends typically look very similar. So I think there's typically a lot of concern about, how does someone balance work and school and personal? And I will say one of the most important things that I learned in the program is just to give yourself a lot of grace and patience. Finding that right balance takes time. And different people will find that balance within different time periods. But I think it's personally very much worth the investment. And there's so much growth that comes from that as well. And such a strength and ability to also prioritize what's most important for you.
Well, it sounds like from what you've all said so far too, that the environment at Tepper helps you have that patience and that ability to kind of carve your lane out because people are helpful. It sounds like they're lifting you up and they're giving you that ability to get more comfortable as you adjust to going back to school, right? Get your backpack back on. I always think of that Adam Sandler song, Back to School. When you go back for your MBA, it's fun. You're a student again. It's awesome. So Rosemary mentioned this a little earlier about how, you already have your job all lined up. Congratulations, which is fantastic. But you mentioned some things about, recruiting and not having to do that as much this particular mini semester. But Kate, what would you say, what is the career services? What is your office doing? What does the recruiting look like for students on campus? How busy can it get? Kind of give us like the textbook on what you're doing in the Career Center.
Sure. Just to give you kind of a quick overview, we have had historically really good numbers with regard to students finding jobs. In fact, I believe last year's co-graduating class 2022 was at 97% accepting roles, receiving roles at 90 days, which is, I think, one of our best years. So that was great. As you all know, the sector, the tech sector especially, and a lot of companies are slowing hiring right now. And so we're pretty nimble in that we have on-campus recruiting, because I'll walk through all of this. This pertains to full-time and for the part-time students that are interested in recruiting for full-time or internship roles. So we are working this summer to onboard students early with regard to resume reviews, prep for interviews, practice, cover letters, how to get your LinkedIn profile all set, so that in August, September timeframe, when companies start coming to campus, campus can be in person or virtual. Some with the pandemic, everything went virtual, and a lot of companies have stayed that way for their presentations, but they come on campus for interviews. So there's a mix, which I think is really helpful, especially for the part-time students, so they can participate in these events. So in the fall, there will be corporate presentations. Many of those presentations are focused on graduating students. So they will have interviews and they'll make offers before the end of December. The offers will probably come in October, November timeframe. In addition, there are a number of career fairs, national career fairs that we help prepare students for. National Black MBA, Prospanica, Ramba, the Vets Fair, a number of them. And so all of that prep and strategy around how you execute at those fairs is very important. So with regard to the onboarding, all of the colleagues that I mentioned that I work with, when you onboard with us, you fill out a career preferences form along with a code of conduct. And that career preferences form, you just share with us what you're thinking about doing. And you get aligned with a counselor that is best aligned to help you. So that's your assigned counselor. Once you meet with that assigned counselor to go over your strategy and your goals and put together kind of a curated path for you based upon your goals and your background, then you have it's up to you to never see your counselor again or to meet with your counselor pretty regularly. And because we work with the clubs too, we each have assigned clubs, you'll see us individually and you'll see us in club settings. And so you have every opportunity to work very closely with us on executing your plan or not at all. So what we do find that we are unique in a number of ways is that we do have this assignment where we work with groups that are likely aligned. And so my students will have operations and product background. And I also work with students interested, as I mentioned earlier, in the healthcare sector. So we'll be able to share information that's relevant in those areas. And so you'll find that in financial services for any of you that are interested in going into investment banking or asset management, and then on the consulting side or product management as well. You'll have the same kind of setup with your counselor. So you'll have the fall session, and then that starts up again in January for internships, for interviewing. Now, we have seen the past couple of years, that's kind of a standard recruitment, on-campus recruitment cycle. We have seen, though, that some companies are starting to hire their interns in the fall. Which started during the pandemic, actually. And so that's why we're doing the early onboarding, to make sure that you're up and ready to go and you don't miss out on any of those opportunities if you so happen to be interested in those that are recruiting early. So for any of you who decide to join us, and I hope that you do, please engage early with us, because then that way you'll be better prepared. So that's kind of a high level of how the Career Center works. We're pretty highly ranked too. We had last year, if I'm going to get this, I might get them reversed, but we were ranked number 8 for feedback from students, according to the Financial Times or the Economist. And then the Financial Times was an equal ranking for alumni. So we're top 10 Career Center. And the way I usually work with it, we always talk about, okay, Douglas is working to get you into the school, and then we work to get you out into the path that you are interested in pursuing. So, and because we've had commercial experience at this point in my career, I'm very, very excited to work with students to help them kind of pursue their dreams and work on an individual basis on their specific goal strategy. So that's a kind of a high level. If you think that's enough, or if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer offline too.
No, that's great. And what's awesome to hear too is the ins and outs of what the Career Center does with admissions, right? So you mentioned how kind of like there's a little bit of that connection between what Douglas's team does and what your team does. The connection between yourselves and industry, right? Where you came from industry and you have connections there and you're working within the industry you're familiar with. It's another thing that I think people need to hear, and that you're making adjustments. Like I think students sometimes, incoming students, the current students, I'm sure I've heard this a million times, but the incoming folks, I don't think they fully realize like how in touch the Career Center is with what's going on out there. I think they always think like, oh, they don't know. They know, like you're on.
No, we know. Yeah.
And that's why they're there.
Yeah, I remember last year when I saw this huge, we saw this huge spike in hiring across the tech sector. And for those of us that have lived through these cycles before, these economic cycles, we said, this is going to be a problem next year. which is this year, where we're seeing the contraction. And so for students, I think there was a question earlier about how do you help students through this, the difficult times. We have this kind of cookie cutter on campus recruiting with lots of, big companies, but also we have a strong relationship, Tepper, with the Schwartz Center, which is a startup. They have lots of relationships with startups and incubators. And so there are opportunities to work in startups. There are a variety of opportunities as we start to shift through kind of murky waters of the economy. Hopefully things turn around or stabilize. But one thing that this has been very helpful, I think, for students, we've had this huge influx of students that wanted nothing but product management in the tech sector. And we've tried very hard to encourage people to look at other avenues at the same time. Just always, it's a safe thing to do just in your life. And this is one reason why it's safe to do that. And so when you talk to your counselor with your goals, we will always say, okay, what's your dream job? And then what is your second path? And maybe there's a third path. Some students have multiple paths, but I really try to encourage students to have more than just one specific path or, one company that they want to work for.
Yeah, I mean, and especially with given the times, as you mentioned, right, pivoting may be the case. The joke question I like to ask schools on this type of a session, on the way into the program, right, you have to write, what are your goals? What are your post-MBA goals, right? Kate, does your office take those essays and at graduation make sure that people did those goals, or not?
No,
usually, right?
no.
Yeah. So
no,
I think that's
what's great about an MBA program, especially Tepper too, because we have so many links into other groups within the university. Many students come in saying, I want X. And then they get here and they see all of these other great things and they change their mind and realize that's not the best path for me. I really should be doing, ABC instead. And so, no, we never, in fact, I always encourage students to look at a variety of different paths. If you come in thinking that you're going to be only in marketing or commercial rollout of products, there might be some financial roles that are good fit for your background, even though they say finance. They really are more operational in nature, or they're more market facing. And so we just really encourage students to be open and explore all opportunities, because this is really a point in your life where you can really pivot. You can pivot industry, you can pivot your role as well, your function. You just have to have, a plan and a good execution strategy.
I see both Rosamaria and Michelle shaking their heads as they agree with some of the things you're saying, either the experience of themselves or probably classmates of theirs. So that's all awesome stuff. So let's see here. If, you mentioned alumni a little bit, Kate. So Michelle or Rosamaria, do you have any stories of interactions you may have had with alums, conversations? Were they helpful before you join the program, while you're in the program? Like, maybe just kind of talk through those alumni connections.
Yeah, I can go first. And I kind of want to link my answer with, here's a question about how Tepper supports international students when to weather the storm. Something that I have relied on a lot is the international alumni. We have a lot of people that come from different places in the world, and we have all been through the same struggles. And I remember when I was looking for my internship and I knew I had an interview with Red Hat, I was able to connect on the same day with an alumni from Tepper who also did his internship at Red Hat. He was also an international student. He was also an international student back then. And it was he really helped me with the interview. He told me about Red Hat, the things I should know, what I should be prepared, even though he worked in a different role, but he told me a little bit more about the company. The same for my full-time job. When I was in my final round with Citibank, I was able to reach out to an alumni that was working there. And she even kind of helped me with my negotiation. What should I ask for? Knowing that I'm an international and what I like, the pros at working there. So I believe she was so helpful. She gave me her number. we were texting during these whole weeks, back and forth. So I don't know, like, even though these two people were completely strangers to me, I believe they have really helped me during my recruiting process as well. So yeah, in the end, I end up having the MCC, the same professors, my classmates, clubs, and alumni. You have all of these resources, and yeah, they're all there for you during good times, during bad times. So yeah, I believe I've really used all of this.
Yeah, and I would agree with that has been my experience as well. When I was shifting companies and looking for new roles, one of the things I found most valuable was reaching out to alumni, both from Tepper, but also from the larger CMU environment, because we have so many amazing schools and so many talented alumni across the board. And that was really helpful, just speaking to individuals who have had similar experiences, who have gone to different companies, and just seeing what the realm of possibilities was for my next role, my next opportunity. I also found professors to be extremely helpful in connecting us to alumni, and certain classes actually even encourage that as well. There's a networks and organizations class within Tepper that teaches you the importance and kind of the way that you can reach out to alumni and really start building networks. So there's certainly an emphasis on that, and there's lots of opportunities through speaker events and virtual events to connect with alumni as well on panels and in other opportunities. So it's certainly been a helpful part to kind of expand the network.
Great, both with very positive experiences with alums. It's awesome. So we do have a question that was submitted here, and I mean, it's like a perfect situation, because when we were talking to each other to start this call, Rosemaria had mentioned that she's in the technology strategy project management track. And the question came in that said, I've recently shifted my career to product management after years acting as a project manager in the automotive industry. How can that track help me boost my career? So this is like, is this your friend who asked this question to make sure we get to this today, Rosemaria? Did you set this up?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, as I mentioned, I'm in this track. I didn't have a strong, like, I come from financial services. I was a product manager, but it was more of a strategy type of role. And I wanted to do this track because I wanted to learn more about technology strategies, and I was intrigued about how I've seen like PMs developing in all the industry. So I really wanted to learn about this. I have a lot of my classmates that were doing this track. They are all going to product management roles in a lot of very good companies, from pure tech to financial services as well. So there's a lot of there are a lot of opportunities. And I believe what the track can do to boost your career, they will help you to choose the classes. So it's not like you need to take some specific classes to complete your track requirements. You have a pool of classes you can choose. So you can adapt what you want to take depending on what are your personal goals. There are some 3 mandatory classes, I believe. But besides that, you have a lot of flexibility. One of the mandatory classes is human-computer interaction that you need to take outside Tepper. And this is a little bit more about design. And it really helped me, even though I'm not going to be a product manager, but I believe it gave me a new perspective. And I have seen how my product managers friends are actually using that in their interviews, or are going to use that in their jobs. And something really important about the track is that for our capstone, which is the final project, is 1 semester long. We work with actual companies. There's Microsoft, there's Meta, there are some fintechs, there are some software as a service companies, and you work directly with them in a business problem that they have. So I believe this is something really, really cool. I'm doing fintech, for example, which, if you look at my essay, when I applied to Tepper, I said I wanted to do fintech. So this is amazing. And yeah, you will have the opportunity to work with these companies, and they are even hiring some of these companies. Like, so, unfortunately, a lot of people already have jobs lined up at this point, but there's this opportunity if you're still recruiting. So yeah, I really, I'm happy I took this track, even though I was scared because I don't have the STEM background, but it has been really good. And the feedback I've got from my other classmates that are having PM roles in different companies, it also really helped. And yeah, I believe having this track on your resume when you're starting to recruit for your internship gives, like, I remember in my interviews seeing people really curious about what this track meant, because they can see that you want this, that you're pursuing this, and that's one of the reasons you're doing your MBA. So I believe it's really helpful.
Thank you for that and for providing that answer. Hopefully, I think Tiago was who asked that. So there you go. Full information on that track, which sounds like a lot of fun, actually, because you get to pick and choose a couple different courses, which is awesome. So we have a few minutes left, and I want to make sure we have like a good question we can ask everyone. So I think one of those questions typically is, right, we have folks in this session right now who may be early on in their journey, just trying to decide on which schools to apply to. We may have other folks who have acceptances and they're trying to pick which school to go to, right? So keeping that in mind, right, what is a piece of advice for all of you that you would provide to somebody who isn't at Tepper yet, right? What is something that you wish you knew when you were at this stage, you know, for Rosemaria, maybe 2 years ago, right? For Michelle, I don't know when you started exactly, but maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, right? And then for Kate and Douglas, just about what is that environment like, and what advice can you provide to somebody who wants to join the Tepper community? Kate, we could start with you maybe on this, and I'll end on Douglas on this one.
Yeah, sure. I mean, one thing that I have heard our alums consistently say is that they really appreciated the coursework. And I think, Rosa and Michelle have done a great job of talking about the variety of courses. It is rigorous, but it's recognized in the market for that. But our alums are very supportive, and have always said, we really like the fact that it was a small program. It's smaller than other big schools, and so you get to know everybody. And so the contacts that you make are lifelong contacts. It's a great way to expand your network very quickly into the next phase of your career.
Michelle, how about for you? Is it me? Michelle, how about for you? Sorry.
Oh, got it. Okay, we can hear you now. We couldn't hear you before.
Sorry about that.
But I'm happy. No worries. I think I will provide the advice that I think was provided to me by current students in the program right as I was entering Tepper. But one of the things that is really important going into your program, especially if you're going into a part-time program where you are balancing those other domains of life and priorities, is to really understand what's most valuable to you and what you want to get out of the MBA program, and really prioritizing those things that you value the most. I think it's tempting to quote unquote try to do it all, right? So classes, clubs, networking, and more. And I think all of those things certainly can happen, but I think it's important to make the most time for the things that you know you really want to achieve, and also be open to new experiences and classes and connections and things that you might not have thought of before. So I think it's important to kind of prioritize and do the things that really interest you.
Great advice also. Rosemaria, how about for you?
Yeah, I remember 2 years ago when I was exploring getting an MBA, I believe the application makes you also have your story very clear, not only for the program, but for yourself, because I believe the MBA goes really fast. As Kate mentioned, you kind of arrive and you are starting to see some companies recruiting. I remember I arrived and Microsoft was already there recruiting. So things go really fast. So I do believe, and this is a big investment, a big life decision. So I believe it's so important to know what you want to get from this MBA, because you're going to have so many things to do during these years that you need to prioritize. And I have seen people that know their priorities. Like if you have your priorities straight, it's going to help you better. In my personal experience, when I arrived, a lot of change countries. I wasn't speaking English every day. It was a lot. And I was like, okay, my priority right now is to adjust to the lifestyle. But I also met other people that were like, no, this is my dream company, and I'm going to start recruiting right now for it. Some other people are figuring things out. So just know what you want to get from the MBA, because you're going to have a lot of things to take out of it. And I believe the sooner you know what you want, the better. but at the same time, it's kind of contradictory. You have time to figure things out. I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to learn tech, but I also love financial services. So I didn't know exactly like what role, what industry. I was so confused, and things ended up working out. Like you talk to MCC, you talk to your classmates, to alumni, and you kind of realize, okay, I believe this is what I want to do. This is what I'm good at. And yeah, just put down the work and have some time to reflect on what are your goals with this, because it goes really fast again.
And I think you also touched on kind of another trick with MBA applications is that opening up of yourself and speaking about yourself and putting your story out there, which for a lot of folks is not easy to do. If they were able to take your business acting class first, they may be able to act the part at least before the applications. But for those that can't take that class before you apply, it's tough sometimes. It's tough to be introspective. It's tough to put your story out there. But you know, it ends up being great results, and it is a good practice to do. So it seems like it's working out for you. So that's good. Sorry. Yeah.
So I wanted to add one more thing, like be true to yourself. You don't need to pretend to be someone else during the application. Be true to yourself, and yeah, that's all that matters.
Good. Yep. Great advice there as well. Douglas, take us home. What's from someone who's reading all these applications, who's seeing a lot of different folks who want to go to Tepper, what is that advice you could provide to somebody to make themselves stand out and be a good member of the community?
Absolutely. And, I think first I always let people know I'm a huge proponent of higher education, and I truly believe in the power of advanced degree. So, and I say it because I know what it's done for me personally and how it's been able to benefit my career. However, I'm just an individual. So I believe no one should really just make a decision based off my individual experience or recommendation. However, we do have the empirical data, so that's an entirely different story. So I recommend that everyone, I really implore you to do that. Implore anyone that's in the search process to do the research, seek out the employment report at any institution that they're seriously considering. Really review them to make sure that the programs that you're going to consider are going to allow you to reach your post-MBA goals. And most importantly, that they're going to provide that financial return that you need to make sure that an MBA is a sound investment for you.
A lot of sense, and it's great that schools provide that information, right? So you can definitely check that stuff out, get to know them, get to know some current students, come to events like this one, where you can get a little bit of all of that, right? All the information you need at this. So for those who are here, I'm really glad you guys all were able to come to this session, go back, rewatch the video. I mean, I learned a lot about the program. I unfortunately already have an MBA, so I can't be somebody who's applying, but hopefully some of the other attendees who are here will be applicants in the future or future students at Tepper after learning from all of you. Douglas, anything else you want to say as we close here and let everybody get back to sleep, I guess, right? Our folks from, where's our Taiwanese? Are they still with us here? It's getting late.
Yeah, but no, if not, the one thing I was going to say is, don't let this be the end of our conversation. Let's make it the beginning. I always say, if you have questions, don't keep those questions to yourself. Bring them to our admissions team, connect with our current students, and we're more than welcome to provide additional insight and all the information we need to allow you to make the best decision for yourself. So again, please don't hesitate to reach out, connect with us by coming to some of our additional events, and let us help you.
Look at that, right on schedule. Jay is still awake, so awesome. Thank you for sticking with us. That's really funny. Okay, awesome. So again, I want to thank all of you for this great panel. Lots of really great information here. We will send this recording out to everyone who registered, so you can watch it later on today after you wake up. Jay, thank you for sticking with us. And again, as Douglas mentioned, great way to close out. Continue these conversations, reach out to the admissions office. As you can see, Douglas is an actual person. He's not some AI bot that just stamps, yes, you're in, no, you're not, right? We're all people. Reach out, ask those questions, have these conversations, and make those connections. And hopefully you'll be doing all of that at Tepper very soon. So thanks again, folks.